Recap of week 5 of Astronaut Reserve Training Block 1. This week was all about biology. So we had theoretical lessons on radiation physics, radiation biology, and astrobiology. These are huge areas, and we have to know about radiation physics to be able to then know about radiation biology. There's a whole lot of radiation out there in space that we are exposed to when we're on the International Space Station. We also want to know what it does to living organisms, what it does to cells and tissues. This is the biolab facility on the International Space Station. So we have things like a glove box, and we have an incubator here. And so during the practical sessions this week, we had a chance to try some basics of biology so that one day we'll be able to work on experiments like this on the International Space Station. Remembering that the point of astronaut reserve training is to bring us all up to the same level. So maybe none of us have had any experience in a biology lab before, and we need to learn the basics before we can operate these kinds of machines. We learnt how to dilute cell cultures. We learnt how to use different kinds of microscopes. We also did some environmental swabbing. I swabbed the screen of my phone, I swabbed the tap in the lab, and I also swabbed the strap of my watch. And it turns out there's quite a lot of bacteria on that, so you might want to disinfect your watch straps now and then. We also learned how important it is to wash your hands. We could see the difference in bacteria colonies between when we just put our hands on the agar plate and then afterwards once we'd washed and disinfected our hands. This is not to say that bacteria is bad. We need bacteria and it is all around us. We also learnt about the kind of hardware that's used both on ground and in space to study gravitational biology. For example, you can simulate the conditions of microgravity for biological samples on Earth using an instrument called a klinostat. You can also do drop tower experiments or experiments using sounding rockets where you have short periods of microgravity and you start to see what happens to cells and tissues. Then, of course, we get to the International Space Station. A really exciting part of the week was where we got to handle some of the instrumentation that had been on board Artemis 1 that went around the moon. These were radiation physics experiments. There were 2 mannequins that were used to test radiation that arrives in the body during a flight around the moon. And we got to interact with these models that had actually been there and see all the different kinds of sensors that were used. This week we also did social media training, so hopefully that has given me some tools to provide some better content for you coming up. Here's an example of what Antea, Carmen and I worked on for a little bit of fun.